Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Johnston, Senior Editor at CGT and RIS News. And I'm talking here today with Justin Honaman of AWS and John Phillips of PepsiCo, and something new we're trying in what we're calling Topics in 10. Now, both Justin and John are members of our Executive Council, which is a forum for industry innovators for identifying the latest technology and trends in retail and consumer goods. The group's made up of leading consumer goods retail and solution provider executives who are focused on sharing insights to drive action across the industry. So I'm really excited to talk with them today as part of a series of rapid fire industry trends. We're going to try to do this in under 10 minutes. So Justin, John, welcome. It's great to have you. In keeping with this rapid fire, let's start out with some really quick introductions.
All right. Hello, everybody. John Phillips. I lead customer supply chain and go-to-market for PepsiCo.
And hey, everybody, Justin Honaman. I lead our worldwide consumer products, food and beverage segment at AWS.
Great. Well, that was 1 minute. So the name of today's game is we're going to run rapid fire through a series of topics, and we're going to try to get them in under 10 minutes. What you're seeing, what's driving it, and what are your recommendations to the consumer goods and retail communities? So number one is everywhere commerce. Justin, why don't you go first?
Perfect. Yeah. So this is a hot topic, or it was especially hot last year. You know, when you think about everywhere commerce and the proliferation of new channels for consumer goods companies, it was on fire coming into this year. It's interesting, and John and I have talked about this a lot. As the year has shifted along, it's now kind of like it's still there as a priority, but now it's like, hey, what new can we be offering in terms of what do we need to do for the consumer experience around things like personalization, around route to market, around like support. Because now if you're going direct to consumer in some channels, you've got to actually offer support and information and transparency and engagement and offer a true support model, which for many CPG brands is not their standard. Whereas in the new entrants in food and beverage, especially, you're seeing those companies easily being able to be agile in this space and be everywhere as consumer demand has been shifting. So a couple of interesting facts, though, I pulled before today. 63% of consumers expect personalization as a standard element of engagement, and 74% are frustrated when it's not offered. 78% of consumers will leave a brand's website if fast free shipping isn't offered, and 60% of consumers are unhappy when the return process is not clear or it's not offered. Now, the interesting thing on top of that is when a brand creates a positive customer journey or experience, consumers are willing to pay 7% more on a premium, 8% less likely to switch to a competitor brand, and 2 times as likely to spontaneously recommend a brand to others. And this is all from our partner, Kantar. So if you think about that and the mental model of a consumer goods brand that's been traditional route to market through retail, now we're everywhere commerce, and there's a lot to think about. John?
Great setup, Justin. No, I think for the first time, we've talked for years about the omni-channel, multi-channel consumer. And I think kind of, the post-COVID world we live in, right, is really starting to bring that to life, where consumers really are using a multitude of different platforms to meet their weekly shopping needs, right? So, the data we look at shows that 70% of those consumers that tried online, whether that be pickup, delivery, in the e-commerce space for e-grocery, plan to continue at least some of their shopping trips in that space. So I think what you're seeing is the importance of the integration of those platforms to where there is one seamless, unified experience for the consumer is going to become ever more critical. And then brands also are offering more options for consumers to get their products. At PepsiCo, we launched a couple of platforms during the pandemic, one called snacks.com and pantryshop.com was the second one. But again, offering consumer choices to find the brands, the products that they love.
Hey, John, on that topic, as markets have reopened, many consumers have moved back into traditional retail channels. Have you seen some of that shift, kind of back off of e-commerce or some moderation? What's your expectation around kind of having that as a channel and a channel where it's profitable, right? I mean, it's super expensive to ship a Diet Pepsi 2-liter to a consumer versus that being part of a basket. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if you look overall, Justin, I think what we're seeing is, you saw the huge surge, right, when COVID hit, right? People were doing it out of safety, right, to be able to not have to go into physical retail. If you look this year, you're seeing it kind of, slow down a bit. So you're not seeing the same kind of hockey stick, that we saw last year from a growth standpoint. But you're seeing people stay in this multi-mode purchasing behavior where, hey, I'm doing a pickup trip, but maybe I'll park the car and go inside and, grab my perishables and meats because, I still think that's something I need to go do on my own. And I think you're also seeing consumers make their ways back into the stores. We had a number of kind of top-to-top discussions over the last few weeks with some of the industry conferences, and you are starting to see that foot traffic back into retail. I think everybody is thriving to get back into those social environments where you can engage with real people, real bodies, and I think you're going to see that balance out. I think the shift that we saw is here to stay, but I think you're going to see it moderate a bit on the slope of that growth line.
Nice. So on that note, we're doing well on time. On that note, on the note of speed, let's talk speeding up the supply chain. Now, obviously, a super timely topic. John, I'm going to go to you on this one first.
Great. I think when you talk about speed, I think what e-com and e-grocery has really done for the industry is gotten people to look at automation at a whole new level, right? You've seen this explosion over the last 36 months of things like micro fulfillment centers, or they're referred to as MFCs, or centralized fulfillment centers known as CFCs. You're seeing the industry kind of really get focused on, hey, they first went where the consumer was, right? Met the consumer where the consumer demand was. But now the effort is around how do you optimize and bring kind of that productivity focus into the equation, but also the speed focus. What we saw over the last 18 months is people really, their expectation continues to go up. It used to be, hey, I'm comfortable with getting my stuff kind of in 48 hours. Then it was, hey, 24 hours. Then it was same day, right? And turn the clock forward. We're now in programs. There was just a new subscription program launched today by a major retailer that has 2 hour as part of that program offering in the top tier. So you're seeing that expectation bar continue to go up. And in order to meet those consumer expectations, the fulfillment engines that retailers are going to have in market are going to have to have a lot more capability than they've had in the past. And automation is going to play a big role in that.
Yeah, I love that. So I'll take an angle of like, I'm going to dive deep into like the next tier down. So then what are CPG brands doing about that? And when you think about the year, as I was saying earlier, early in the year, e-commerce was like literally Q1. That was top priority, top discussion topic with the customers I've been working with across the industry. As the year has moved along, though, the conversation has shifted to this whole idea of speeding up the supply chain and everything around it. So I'll throw out some of the buzzwords from a solution perspective that many of you are familiar with: connected factory, digital manufacturing, industry 4.0, supply chain visibility, digital twin. I mean, all of these things are literally daily conversations with the customers we're working with now, as the shift has really been to, okay, wait, we need to look at our supply chain again, because, our forecasting methods that we thought were really good, or thought were okay at least, really didn't work last year. And we've got just moderations in demand that are extreme now. We've got new data elements coming in that are coming into the forecasting process we're not prepared for. So what's interesting, I find, is like, a year or two ago, we were focused on just-in-time inventory and very efficient supply chains. That model was blown up last year, and now I think, as John, you were even sharing, we talked about last week, is what's the middle ground? Like, where can we improve now? Because we've got a lot of momentum to find new ways of working more efficiently. And the thing that's really changed is the technology and the capabilities that underpin our supply chain and manufacturing operations, and the analytics that can be applied to it. If you look back over the history in CPG, like that's the capability to manage a lot of IoT data or sensor data, and the analytics that now can be applied are different and unique, and that's enabling a lot of new things in this space.
Yeah.
So we're just closing on a minute, so I want to hear some final thoughts. The last topic we were going to try to squeeze in was transparency. John, I'm going to punt to you.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do justice to it in a minute, so maybe we'll set it up and cover it on one of our next sessions. But, there is a lot of activity right now within the industry, and I'll speak kind of the US and Canada on things like Smart Label, right? For the first time, we're centralizing an approach where we're putting a digital trigger right on the package. So you have a QR code that you can scan natively with your phone, whether it be iOS or an Android device, and find a wealth of information about that product through a curated menu. And, we have regulations coming up in January around disclosure on particular things, then those new digital platforms are going to be a key to making that information more readily available for the consumer.
Yeah, I would just add on to that, things like the Verified by GS1 program are really significant in terms of providing clear visibility of what's in a product and the elements of a product to a consumer who's looking for transparency and wanting to look at, I want to be able to know where my product came from so that I know if this is truly a product I want to buy. And then I want to know what happens to it once it's done. Is there a recycling program or a program to reuse that packaging? So it's definitely a hot topic and something we should take up on a future discussion.
Absolutely. And we are out of time. We didn't do 10 minutes, but we did pretty close. So I want to thank you both so much for joining and talking with me today. Just a reminder, if you're watching, you have any questions, feel free to reach out and be on the lookout for more videos from our Executive Council. Thanks again, John and Justin.
Welcome.